I was not planning on filming this video. But catastrophe has struck and my freezer door was open and I'm gonna have to go through it all. Let me show you what I got going on. I wasn't ready for this, not at all. If you recommend any certain type of freezer alarm, please hit me up in the comments because I don't want to go through this again. Let's go check it out. So I grabbed the first thing I could and started filling it up with anything that was fully defrosted. That's all, an entire laundry basket full. If it's not really cold, I'm gonna have to toss it. If it is really cold but defrosted, I'm gonna have to cook it before I can freeze it or can it or do something. I just don't know what I'm gonna do. And like my tomatoes, I don't know if I can refreeze those, but look at this. Oh, all the nastiness at the bottom now. This freezer is like brand new, so it's gonna all need to be gone through and cleaned now. All these vegetables I'm gonna have to find out because I don't know. I mean, they're still cold enough. They're refrigerator cold, but they're defrosted. Thankfully, these 3 packs of chicken are solid, so we caught it quick enough to save those. But there's a lot that needs to be done. Okay, so I'm in the middle of 2 other projects and was not planning on having to do this. So I am going to move some of this stuff out of the way because this roaster gets hot. And thank goodness what I was using the roaster for is done now, because that means my roaster's empty. And maybe, just maybe, I can save some of this stuff. Like, I'm gonna have to like drain the juice out of that. That's all onions. I don't see any reason they can't be refroze, and they're still super cold. But if I leave the juice in, they're gonna all stick together really bad. So that's gonna have to go over the sink and be drained. I might end up canning with them. I got ham hock. That's gonna need something done with it. I just went through and hit up a beef cell, ground beef cell, and these are still very, very much refrigerator cold, but they're all soft, so those I think is where we're going to start. So I'm gonna get this on like 250, 275 and start dumping all of this in here as quick as I can, and I'm gonna get it mostly browned, and then I think I'm gonna can it. We'll see. I did not plan to have to do this today, and I still have things I'm supposed to do today, well, that I have to do today in preparation for going to work tomorrow. So I really hope this doesn't make for too long of a night. Thanks for catching that freezer. I didn't see it at all.
Yeah, no problem.
Better now than with everything needing to be trashed. But I had these cut in like 1 pound logs for us to be able to use for dinners without having to go through and can the ground beef. And then I had about 1.5 pound, 2 pound logs cut for us to pull out defrost to make beef burgers. So now we will not have the ground beef for beef burgers, but we will have an abundance of ground beef. There is some chicken. The outer ones are defrosted, but the inner ones are still frozen. I have to decide what I'm going to do with that. Same thing with this beef stew. Frozen in the center, outside is definitely defrosted. So I cannot refreeze that. 2 packs of ribs. A 10-pound bag of chicken. Just some leftovers. Some marinated chicken. Get out of the way. 2 dinners worth of fish. Get out. The dogs are very interested in this. Some chicken bone broth. I think I'll just try and can it real quick because I do have a digital canner. Let's see. Some beef broth, which looks like it went all over. 2 completely defrosted but very cold packs of beef liver. And another pack of chicken. So it looks like I'm going to need to quickly go through here, brown this up most of the way, pack some jars, and get them processing, and figure out what else I'm doing with this. This chicken is best on the grill, and it's storming today. So it's refrigerator cold, so maybe I can cook it for dinner tomorrow. I want to have all of this done by at least tomorrow. That way I know everything is safe. Okay. Fish pieces. I don't know what to do with that at the moment. But I do have the chicken. I might just go ahead and stick them in the roaster next. Ham hock, I have no idea. I might end up making a huge pot of beans. And then I can can those or freeze it or whatever. This is just going to go to the chickens. Got to take one for the team. I think I'm going to get these packed up and ready. So you might get a quick recipe in this as well. If I can get that cookie sheet, because I need both my cookie sheets to get these going. I think I'm going to go ahead and get the oven on. About 375. I'm going to stick this fish in the refrigerator because I don't want it getting any warmer. Things that I know will be okay out for a few minutes while this cooks. Get a stay out. Okay, I don't know if I'm going to be able to show y'all all of this or if I'm just going to try and haul butt through and show y'all maybe at the end. But you know, these things that you're not prepared for do happen. And I'm just very grateful that the majority of it was caught in enough time that I could preserve stuff. But Lord help me, I was not ready for this. I guess I might have to get one of them child lock clamp things and an alarm or something. I don't know what I'm going to do, but I'm very much up for suggestions because I don't like this. I don't like it one bit. Get this stuff out my way. You know what? I'm going to go ahead and wipe those jars up now. If you haven't seen that video, I just did it. And that is a bunch of ghee. And we are going to be trying that out, but I know There's some on the bottoms of these. Some ghee. Because I didn't use a funnel. If I wouldn't have been filming, I should have been able to pour just fine. But you wouldn't believe the wonky angles people have to do things at just for you to be able to see while we're filming. Okay, I'm just going to wipe the rest of this down as well and reuse this pan. And I guess we're going to have everything under the sun cooked for dinner for the next few days. Unplanned bulk batch cooking? Anybody? That's about what it feels like. Alright, let's see if we can see how this meat's doing. Definitely gonna have to mop my floor. Ooh-wee! Don't leave that in there. That's hot. It's trying to melt. I just want to get most of this cooked most of the way through so I can jar it up. I need to see what jars I have. I know I have quarts. I don't know how many pints I have, and I usually do this in pints for our family, so we shall see. We're gonna do some Mom's quickest pork ribs in the oven, and I'll show you. I don't know if I'll remember everything I usually do, because like I said, I'm very much in a hurry. I just want to get things going and working for me, so I'm not up here doing this all night long. But let me show you mostly what I do. I've got 2 pieces of foil lining this cookie sheet, and I put this on here just to make sure both pieces can cover. I usually cover it this way, like that. That way I can fold my ends up and roll it, but I want to make sure it's about right because I don't like having to move the meat around a whole lot. I don't know where my kitchen scissors went, so I found these. These are just going to have to work. Sometimes you just got to make do. And this is definitely a make do moment. This is a make or break do moment. Okay, I'm going to do the same thing on both sides. Ooh, I have almost forgot something. You can see most of what I'm going to put on there. I sometimes change this up depending on what mood I'm in, but it's all usually pretty basically the same. But I cover that in mustard, and I go in with one hand, go all over the ends as well. And this is liquid smoke. Hopefully you can see that. And I just put a couple of drops through there, mixing that in. We like a bit of Worcestershire. And then we'll use this Montreal steak seasoning a lot. And it's kind of like our rub. It's got a lot of black pepper in it, but I usually add a little extra. And y'all are going to hear Coco. Mom's cooking. And she likes Mom's cooking. I've got to get this ground up better. That's what high humidity does to your spices. Okay, I'm going to flip it over and do the same thing. And try not to break your foil. You want to try to keep it all in there in your little pocket, your little foil pocket. Don't use this too much either, because that's potent stuff. But if you don't have time to smoke your ribs, you can do these quick, Mama's about to lose her mind, oven ribs. And they are fall off the bone delicious. And as you can see, it doesn't take long to get them prepared. And I pretty much throw them in the oven. I think I said 350. You can do 350, 375, depending on how quickly you want them to cook. If you're in a rush, pop them up to 375. I want these to cook for a little while, and I'm most likely going to have to turn them off. And then do a couple of errands and then come back and finish them. I don't think I'm going to be doing anything else in the oven. But then you just wrap it all up. Like that, and pop it in the oven. And when I do this, I don't really time it. I will try to let you know how long it took, but it's gonna at least take 40 minutes in the oven. And a lot of times I can just open this foil and pull on the bone. A lot of times the bone just pops right out. So I'm gonna do this for the second one and get both of these in the oven now. Okay, so I've got another project. I've got the ground beef over here browning still. I've got the ribs in the oven, and I'm gonna go through and raw pack the stew meat, and then we're gonna put it in the digital pressure canner to help me not have my hands full on all of this stuff. Some of it's frozen, as you might be able to tell. But I might set these out for a little while and let them defrost the rest of the way. Now that they'll be separated, maybe it won't be such a big deal for them to be defrosted. But I really hope. I have got so much going in here. I had to leave my vent going because it is incredibly hot now, with the roaster going right beside my stove and the oven going. It's just gotten too hot. And I'm really hoping that I don't blow a breaker. This is an older house, and we definitely need to upgrade our electrics. And this is a raw pack, so I'm not going to add any liquids to this beef. I'm just going to dump it and then process it at the right pressure for my altitude for the correct amount of time, because these are quarts. And this is definitely not a how-to because I'm in a rush. But same rules apply. You wipe your rims, finger tight, blah blah blah. That meat, that didn't have as much. We're gonna sharing is caring a little bit. This is not what I had planned to do with this, by all means. And this kitchen is going to need a head to toe detail. Yeah, if you can't tell, I'm running around in here like a loony, trying to get all this food preserved as fast as possible. And so I'm making quite a bit of a mess. I'm trying to clean up a little bit as I go, but the person who left the freezer open is going to have to give this kitchen a full detail. You know, it wasn't an intentional thing, but it has caused major consequences for me. So in turn, for that person to remember to make sure they shut the freezer, there has to be consequences. And the natural consequences of this is me running around trying to save hundreds of dollars worth of food. So to me, it's only fair that that person come through and clean up this whole kitchen once I'm done. That's how it works around here. And I guarantee you that person will remember to shut the freezer a whole heck of a lot better if they have a nice consequence like that. I try to do a balanced consequence. Let me know what you do. Let me know what you think. Seems to work well for all of ours. So I'll have quite a few batches of meat to run through there tonight because I just can't be bothered to bring out my big one at the moment because I can't watch it. And I will have to be leaving soon, so my adult son will probably have to be here for this in a little while. This batch might be almost done, or at least where he doesn't have to close the valve or anything, so I can just let it go and do its thing. And then let him know it's running for me to take off and go do what I need to do. And that will be fine. And he can't deal with the stovetop canner, so this is what I'm going to have to do. I think I'm going to just rinse off these chicken bone broths. And since I'm going to be making a pot of beans anyway, I might just throw it in there instead of any liquid. That way I don't have to can anything else. So that'll have to be good. My sink in my kitchen is a wreck. Ground beef still isn't as brown as I need it. It needs to be brownish on the outside. I've never put this much ground beef in a roaster before, but I'm sure it's overfilled because it's not really browning as much as graying. But it's just gonna have to be good enough. Once it's cooked most of the way on the outside, it don't have to be cooked through, then I'll go ahead and get this stuff jarred up and it can be waiting its turn to go through the canner as well. Okay, so I just want to be very clear that I know exactly when this person left the freezer open and how long it was open for, so I feel comfortable saving the things that I am saving. And you have to use your own discretion if this ever happens to you, because a lot of the times you can't save anything. A lot of the times it's far too late, things are too warm, the weather's too warm if you have yours outside, anything like that, and then you have a total loss. So don't be like me. Get an alarm or a child lock thing so you know it has to click in place so it stays shut. Thankfully, we're not losing a whole lot of stuff, but we need some preventative measures. And like I said, just use your best judgment. Don't go by what I'm doing, because you're not here to see how long it was left open and how cold things are, how frozen things are. You just have to use your best judgment. Use the internet. See what is safe, what isn't. If you've taken food handlers classes like I have, then you really know, what is okay to save and what isn't. And I highly recommend those if you're new to cooking anyway, to go online and find a food handlers class that you can join. I'm sure there's probably some for free on Amazon, on YouTube. But go check it out, because it's very important for you to know best practices just in your own kitchen and what's safe and what's not safe to cook, when's too long, those kind of things. But I'm going to let this cook a little bit more while I start a pot of beans. And you might be able to hear the digital canner has got up to temp, and I have put the valve to airtight instead of exhaust now, and it has started its little countdown. So this is good to go now for whenever I have to leave. Okay, so I'm gonna measure out 4 cups of dry pinto beans. And that should make about 2 pounds worth of beans, because I have this much ham hock. So I want to be able to spread this out over very, very many jars and get more bang for my buck. So I'm thinking about 1.5 ham hock per pound, and we'll see how that goes. I'm going to get this boiling in just some plain water for now. I'm going to do that for probably half an hour, and then I'm going to drain it, and then I'll get the seasonings and the broth and everything in it, and we'll cook it a little bit more. Alright, you probably can't see in there, but I've got the beans rinsed and sorted, and I've got a bunch of water in there. I'm going to just bring this to a boil for about 30 minutes. Then I'm going to dump out that water, add broth, probably some extra water, and all my seasonings along with the ham hock, and let that cook some more. I'll show you when I get to it. Okay, so this beef is where I want it now, and I'll show you what I'm doing with my jars. Okay, so I just have this sink full of hot water. That way my jars are warming up so I can get all that beef canned. I'll see if I can show you how to can it real quick, but I'm running out of space very quickly. Okay, so I just have these pint jars, and I'm going to hold this because this is going to be hot. I have nowhere to set these down because I have my pot of beans right there, since I'm literally trying to cook almost everything out of my deep freezer. Okay, so it is 1-inch headspace. I did squish it a tiny bit. You don't want to really pack this in, otherwise the heat cannot penetrate to safely can. Okay, so you can see I've got 10 pints of the ground beef. Everything fit in there perfectly. And instead of just squishing it, you're really supposed to bang it down on something soft, and it'll settle in where it needs to. Beans are going. We've got a timer set for that. So yeah, this is a little crazy, a little chaotic. I don't have the best setup where you can like see me running back and forth and doing all the things, so I'm trying to remember to film for you, because this is an emergency situation. When you invest so much money in watching the sales, time in watching the sales, time in running to hit the sales, the money that you put into it, you don't want to lose it. So this is why it is so important for you to know other preserving methods aside from just freezing. And why this right here is why people can and make their stuff shelf stable, because then you don't have to worry about freezer accidents. But this is also why it's really good to know how to cook things from scratch, like this pot of beans. And I could turn this into canned pintos just to make refried beans. Depending on what I add, it could just be southern pinto beans for cornbread or rice or things like that. Haven't thought that far ahead yet on what I'm wanting to do. I don't know. I'm gonna have to think about that. It's tough. Maybe I can do it both ways. Some for refried beans, some for pintos. I don't know. I gotta check on how I can can them if I try to separate them. But we shall see. Roaster's clean. Now on to the chicken. I could technically just break down this chicken and can it with the bone in, but I feel like that's a lot of wasted space, canning up the bones and putting them on my shelf. So how I've done the chicken is cook it down, shred it, can it, and then make bone broth afterwards with all the leftovers. So you get two products, which I like. So this is just pink salt. And this is 2 or 3 layers thick of chicken, so I'm going to heavily salt it. Plus I find that this salt isn't as strong as that iodized salt. And this is not what it says. This is fresh cracked black pepper that I just put back in the container. And I think I have a little short out about that on how you could do that and then have the convenience. Okay, I'm going to stick this back on. Find the right plug. I'm going to turn that off for now too. I don't want to blow my breaker. Alright, there's a little bit of water. I'm going to add some more water, put the lid on, and we're going to let that go. Okay, so I'm back from my errands. It's almost 6 o'clock. The ribs are done. I'm going to let them, they look absolutely delicious, but I can cut these in half and bag them up in a freezer bag and now put them back in the freezer, so I'll have meals that are already cooked. And the beans have been soaking after they cooked for 30 minutes. I don't know how long. I've just left them. Got the ham hock out. I'm going to drain those, put fresh water, seasonings, and I'm going to cut those so they'll cook in the amount of time the beans do. And I'm probably going to par cook the beans, can them up as well. And speaking of canning, our canner is done with the beef stew meat, so it's time to unload those and load the ground beef. Before we do that, let's check on the chicken. Hot, steamy loveliness. That's just what we want to see. Alright, all of these ground beef need to be processed. My pen is down, so this should be safe to open now. And I did not completely pack these, but I knew it wouldn't all fit in pints, and I'm running low on pints. So, quarts it is. These should be cool. Yeah, those are cool enough. I'm going to take them off. Give myself more space. So, looks like 5 fit. I've got 3 wide mouth and 2 regular mouth in there. And that'll be the same for this batch, so I won't have to separate them. That'll work out good. Alright, so I've just got a couple of gallon bags, and I'm going to get these cut up and put in here. And once they cool off a little bit more, I will put them in the freezer. I have done this before. I had cooked ribs in the freezer where I've cooked 2, and we only go through 1 with our family, sometimes with leftovers. So I'm going to try to keep this all in the pieces like that, and you see those bones will just come right out. So I'm going to try to keep them intact and put them in the bag. But that's a whole another thing. Cooking for yourself in advance is a great idea. Ooh, these bones are still hot. Okay, I'm going to leave them open, but I got to get them out of my way because I think I'm going to cook dinner now in a whole nother way, and they can just cool off out of the way. There is a little bit there, so I can taste it. Yep. Just as good as ever. Now I'm hoping I don't have to Well, I'm gonna. I was hoping it wouldn't have leaked out at all with the grease and stuff. So I'm gonna get these pans cleaned up because the chicken's next. Alright, I've got my beans drained and a little bit of water added. And now I'm gonna add all the rest of this chicken broth that's in here. So none of it goes to waste either. And those beans will soak all that up. We're going to add quite a bit of this onion too. Probably about 2 onions worth. That's all nicely defrosted for us. Alright, I have this seasoning. It's called pinto bean spice. And you use 3 tablespoons per pound of beans. And it's getting solid. I haven't been making just regular pinto beans a whole heck of a lot. So if I can get it used up, then I'll do that. We're just going to go through and eyeball it. 2, 4, 5. You know what? Close enough. Gets one more spice thing that needed to be out of my cabinet out. And now they'll have a whole heck of a lot of flavor. Most of the time I just do my own seasoning. But I was gifted this, so I want to make sure I use it and not let any of it go bad. And we're going to add quite a bit of garlic as well. That's probably about 3 tablespoons. Well, 2.5 tablespoons per pound of beans, something like that. Alright, I've kind of split down each side of these ham hocks. That way they can cook quicker. And we'll hopefully cook in the amount of time the beans get at least mostly done. Because I don't necessarily want to cook them all the way through, because I also want to jar these and process these to make all of this shelf stable. So I'm going to bring that up to a boil. I'm going to cover it, is what I'm going to do. Bring it to a boil, reduce heat and simmer. This will go, I'm probably going to check on them in about an hour and see how tender they are. If they're hard done, then we'll go ahead and jar them up and have them ready to go for the canner as well. In the meantime, instead of grilling that chicken, I'm going to set my oven to 350. Look at them lovely redfish fillets. I might try and can them. I don't know yet. Depends on how much energy I have after all of this nonsense. And I'm gonna just go in barehanded because I just washed my hands already. And at this point, I'm sick of all of this. So we're gonna get these laid out and we're gonna bake it in the oven. Instead of grilling it, since it's storming tonight. Might need 2 pans, but we shall see. And I've never tried this recipe baked. It is definitely time to have dinner ready and get what I need to done so I can work tomorrow, which looks like I'm only gonna have about half a day of work, so maybe I can finish this stuff. Alright, I'm gonna pop this in the oven and I'm just gonna watch it. I got it 350, so I'm gonna probably check it in 15 minutes and see where we're at. Alright, so they got it out of the oven. They combined both pans to the one since space on my stove is limited. And it looks pretty good. I don't have any much of the caramelized stuff like it would from the grill, but needs must, so we're gonna eat dinner, and I'm still canning. So unfortunately we did end up blowing a fuse. Sister was just heating up some canned vegetables to go with our chicken for dinner, and that was the end of it. So I had to restart that first canner load of ground beef. You can see these aren't completely tender. How you would want to eat them. But I'm going to stop cooking them now. And I'm going to take out these ham hocks and let them cool down so I can just get the meat off of them, and I'll put the meat back in here, and then we'll can these up and get them processed hopefully tonight as well. So the chicken is fully cooked now, so I have turned off this roaster, and I'm going to let it cool as much as possible for now. Hopefully I can can this up tonight. If not, it'll have to be a project I either start on in the morning or finish after work. We'll have to see when we get there. Well, I guess I'll catch you up on where I'm at in this complete fail. Last night I finished the last of the ground beef pints because we also blew a breaker, so I had to rerun that. And so I finished on that. I did jar up the pinto beans with the ham hock. It's been a day. It's been a couple of days. So I jarred that up, waited for it to cool, stuck it in the fridge until this morning. I got up this morning, I pulled them out of the fridge so they can come to room temperature while I was at work. I also got up, deboned the chicken, threw all my veggie scraps that I keep in a bag in the freezer, the onion peels, all of that. I had about a gallon, so it was perfect. Threw all that in my roaster, left that on a low temp, like 200, while I was gone to work for a few hours. Got completely drenched at work. I'm so thankful for the rain, but that was a lot of rain all at once. And came home, took a shower, got the pinto beans going. I'll show you. Got the pinto beans going in there. They only have about 25 minutes left. All this is the ground beef and the stew beef. They're all labeled. They need to be wiped down, dry, and then they can be put on the shelf again. And I'll show you where I'm at on the chicken bone broth. Alright, this is where it's at now. And it's a nice color. It probably could go longer, but I want to strain this and add a bit of salt and let it cool off so I can skim off the fat, and then I'll jar it up and get it ready to be canned as well. So that leaves 2 packs of fish and I believe 2 pounds of beef liver in the fridge, plus all the chicken from here that I need to do something with. And I think I'm going to try to can liver and onions. I don't know if there's an approved recipe out there, but there's no way we can go through that much liver and onions before it will spoil. So I'm going to try it out. I know you can can beef. I know onions can be in your recipe, so I don't see why you couldn't can them. So this will be an experiment for me, and I will bring you along. Okay, so I've got the chicken broth strained into this pot, and I can kind of see the fat layer a little bit. I have when I went through and just used the ladle like this to remove the fat. May or may not do that again. I'm going to set that to the side and let that cool a little bit more and decide what I want to do for that. If I'm going to have time tonight to can it, hopefully. And I want to show you, I'm going to try the liver and onions getting jarred. So I'm going to get those ready because our pinto beans are coming down from pressure and I should be able to fill that canner again soon. So I've got 2 packages of liver and I believe they're 1 pound-ish. So I'm going to get these started. I'm going to cut open this. I'm going to go rinse my meat and then I'll be back in a minute. Alright, meat's rinsed. I'm going to go through and just cut these into more manageable pieces. I usually take a little bit of time to clean them up as well. Sometimes I remove this if it's thick. If it's not, I don't usually worry about it. But I want these to be about bite-sized pieces, and like I said, I have never done this before. I know you can can beef, I know you can can onions, so I'm going to prepare this. Everything but the flour. I usually season it, flour it, brown it, and then cook it, but I don't want to put flour on this. I was trying to do some research. I saw one blog that had canned it with the flour on it, but she never followed up to say if it was horrible or not. You're not supposed to can flour, any thickeners. So I figure I'm already testing something out, so I don't want to test that out too. So hopefully this will work out good. And I have 2 quart jars that have already been cleaned and are ready to go. I don't know if it's going to take both, but we will just work in sections to see. And I'm going to cold pack this, and I'm going to season it ahead of time as well. So if you want to see what I season this with, which I got my instructions from my grandmother, and she was a very good cook. See how I'm just trying to work around this so I can pull it out. If you can get it out, do it. I usually take a meat masher, and just smack a little bit. For a long time I just use the side of a saucer, and I just go like this to break up some of the hardness. It can be hard to chew, so I just wanted to tenderize it. But this needs to go in the canner for like 90 minutes, so I figured that should probably make it tender enough. Tony Salcheries. You don't want to go hard on this because it does have a lot of heat. I'm just wanting to flavor it. Well, I say a lot of heat. It's not like scorpion hot or anything. It's Creole seasoning. So I'm just going to give that a light coating. I am going to do a little bit of salt. Trying to do this one-handed and keep one hand dirty and one hand clean. That Tony Salcheries does have salt in it, so I don't want to do too much. But that's about all I season it with. And now I usually would go through and put it in flour, both sides, shake it off, put it in a little bit of oil, fry it up on both sides, do through batches, and then put it all back in the pan, add your onions and a little bit of water and simmer it down until it's tender, and then you would have southern liver and onions. So let's see how it fits in here. And I think I'm going to layer. I think I will put some bits of liver, say just to fill up the bottom, and then I'll get a large handful of onions put in there too, something like that. I figure layering it like this would definitely allow the heat to get through to the meat properly, which is what you want in canning. And I will be pressure canning this, so I don't have to worry about any sort of acidity or anything like that. And I'm hoping to get each one pack into a jar, because that is 1 mil for us. And that's what it looks like. So I will clean the rims, put new flats on, and pressure can, since it's a quart, for 90 minutes. And I will show you what it looks like when we're done. I'm just going to do the same thing with this next pouch and my other jar, and we'll see how it goes. Alright, so 1 pound and onions did fit in 2 quart jars. I should be able to go through these onions over the next couple of days. Yep, all's good in the neighborhood. I think, yes. It was just being fiddly. If you can't open it, don't ever force it, because that's how accidents happen. And there's our beans. They look lovely. I tried to make some room over here, which I'm quickly running out of. So I need to next get all those washed up, so I have room to put my next batches. Ooh! See that? I'm going to leave that for a little bit. That's what siphoning is. And that's just going to do that when I go to move it over here. So I'm going to take a minute and wash up these jars while this one cools down a little bit more. And then I will move it over. I'll just take a minute to show you. I'm going through washing them. You take your rings off and you lift them by the seal to make sure they're sealed. And this right here is just like a fat layer. And you'll see there's no liquid. And that's completely safe, because remember, we partially cooked it and then we didn't add any liquid, although I've seen people add some liquid and flavoring to these, but you'll have to check and see what the guidelines are about this. This style is in the guidelines. Just don't leave your rings on. Alright, let's see if this one's ready. Yep, no more spitting and sputtering. Move these down a little bit. Because we are going to try and process quite a bit more. I think the last thing I have to figure out is the fish. So that might be dinner tonight. Okay, so I got 5 quarts and 1 pint. I would have been able to fill a quart up about there, but I spilled it everywhere. The last little slosh just sloshed out too much, so we're just going to use that quart, and my dogs will help me clean up the floor. And since I have this many, I think I am going to bring out my stovetop canner, and all of these will process, I believe it's 25 minutes, but don't quote me on it, since I have quarts. And the 1 pint will just process at the same time. And it's got a lovely deep rich color, and that's from the onion skins. And this was different because I actually had some red onion skins, and I can see a difference in the color, which is pretty interesting. Alright, so got cleaned up a little bit, got the stovetop canner, got the rings wiped down, and lids on, fingertip tight. And there's warm water in this canner, and I need to see, since I don't quite have a full load. See, I could have put one more in there. I need to make sure my water level's right. So I'm going to bring this up to temperature. This is going to vent for 10 minutes. And then I will put my 10 pound, which that's what this is. This is 5, that's 10, and that's 15. Weighted gauge on here. And then I will start my timer, which I still need to go make sure is 25 minutes. Okay, I've got both the liver in here. This gets filled to 8 cups. And we're going to get this going again. I don't know how many batches I'm on now, but I am so glad that I invested in this one. I did. Make sure it's closed. Click high. Go to 90. Push start. Then that circles around. Once it beeps, then we close this to airtight. Pretty easy setup for that, and I'm very impressed with it so far. Okay, so I've got this vent steaming, and I've looked, and I do believe the last thing I have to take care of is this redfish. And this is locally caught redfish, and I personally love to fish for redfish, but this was given to me by my cousin and his son, which I'm very grateful for, and I don't want it to go to waste, so I'm going to cook it up tonight. We may or may not have it for dinner. At this point, I'm getting pretty tired. And it's about 7. So this has taken 29 hours between me having to go to work today, everything I did yesterday once it was found. So this has taken a while. But this right here is why it's good to know what to do when something like this happens, because you never know if it's going to happen, and you don't want to take that loss. Man, that would have been a big hit if I wouldn't have been able to catch it when I did and know what I needed to do instantly. My husband came home yesterday, and he looked around at everything, and he says, it looks like you've been doing this all day. And I have been doing it an hour, because as soon as I saw what I had, I knew what needed to go where. And I highly encourage you to get in the kitchen and start cooking from scratch and start your canning. Even if you have to buy produce or buy the meat. I buy meat. I don't raise meat. So if you have to buy stuff to start canning, do it. That way you know what you need to do and how to do it if there's a problem. So let me show you what I'm going to do to this fish. Alright, my timer's going off. I'm going to go ahead and pop this weight on. And I am going to wait for it to start jiggling and get my pressure right on my stove, which is about 6 or 7 for this canner. Once it starts moving a little bit, then I'm going to set my timer for 25 minutes. Alright, let's see if you can see. Got my fishes. Fishes? Is that a thing? Fish fillets? I don't even know if they're fillets. But I've got them all laid out on the cookie sheet. And also, please let me know if you're interested in learning how to get a whole big fish cleaned up and cut down into these pieces. And I do vacuum seal them so they stay fresh, especially if I get a bunch, because these fish get huge. So I like to part it out into sections and put it in what the heck are they? The vacuum seal bags. That way they stay fresh and don't get any frostbite or things like that. But let me know if you're interested in the comments and learning on how to gut and clean a fish. I personally do it myself. My husband doesn't have the stomach for it, so I told him he better thank God he married a Texan, because I handle it. Butter and Tony sausages, that's all I do. And then I'm going to put it in the oven. Right now I have it on 375 heating up. And if you can't tell, We live in Southeast Texas and we're heavily influenced by the Cajun foods. And I was raised by a Cajun. Wasn't blood related to my grandpa, but I tell you what, my taste buds are related. And he taught me all his secrets. Especially his delicious gumbo, y'all. Maybe I'll share that one day. That is a labor of love. But it is well worth it. And I have learned to make it in bulk so I can put it in the freezer. So let me know if you're interested in seeing that. It's still his recipe. Ooh. I'm probably going to need a little bit more butter, but you get the idea. I'm just going to put butter on them. And that Tony Sauceries, throw them in the oven. When it's white and flaky on the meat, that's when you know it's done. And then you can pair this whatever you like. Some people eat it with rice or a salad or an avocado. Sometimes I'll just eat it with an avocado on the side. You could do steamed broccoli, pasta salad, mashed potatoes, however you would like. And I'll show you what it looks like in just a bit. So this is what they look like when they come out. Absolutely delicious. Brown and buttery. And if you don't like fish, I highly recommend you try this fish, because my husband has a fish aversion from time to time throughout the year, but he will eat this fish. So all the things are still going, both pressure canners are going, and I did forget for a little bit that I had that shredded chicken in the fridge. Shredded chicken's in the fridge in a bowl, so I think that will be a project for tomorrow. I'm pretty sure I'm going to can it. I don't know how, but I managed to have enough jars for all of this, even though I wasn't planning. Oh, why yes, I will go ahead and turn off my chicken broth. It's done. 25 minutes has elapsed. So it's just going to depressurize. But anyway, I don't know how. I don't just go buy a whole lot of jars. And I've canned before, but it was years ago, so I haven't just had a whole lot of experience over the years. But I have put in the work over the last year or two, learning to can. So I've been growing my stock, and my mother gave me some jars. Some were hers, some were my grandparents. So that helped me as well, and just bought them here and there when they were on sale. So I think I'm going to have enough jars. I think I have 6 quart jars left, aside from some blue ones, but I don't want to can in the blue ones. I've been told that food looks gross in it. Plus I want to use it for some dry goods. But I think 6 quart jars might be enough for the chicken. So we'll be back for this tomorrow, because I'm beat. Okay, so plans changed. We're not having the fish for dinner. Everybody voted just to get pizza, and I'm quite tired, so I was happy to comply. So I'm gonna put the fish, the meat of the fish only, not the scale side, in a freezer bag and have frozen cooked fish to make fish patties or something like that, and we'll see how that works. And in the meantime, I'm gonna get these out of the canner, and this is our chicken broth. And see how all of these are. So that chicken broth All looks good. I don't think I had any siphoning. The water looks nice and clear. And right now the liver and onions little tester outer is in the digital canner, the carry. I can link that below. I am very impressed with this. This has really been helpful in this situation, and I haven't found anything I don't like about it yet. And once they're down to pressure, I'm going to take those out and I'm going to call it a night. Alright, so now it's a new day, and I haven't even gotten ready for today, so I want to hurry up and try to get what I can finished. I got all the chicken broth here, the 4 things of beans here, and my liver and onions trial here. And we're going to get the last bit of chicken going. I've got my deboned chicken meat in here that was put in the roaster waiting for me here. I've got water warming up in here because you're supposed to hot pack the chicken. This is cold, but I have to put boiling water in it anyway. Back there I have a kettle going to boil some water, so I'm going to get these jars packed up and get them processing. I'm sure this is supposed to be hot, but at this point I don't have it in me to take the time to do that. I'm just going to be very careful and make sure the hot water, the boiling water, gets through them, through all the chicken. And then I'm processing quarts, so it'll be in the canner for 90 minutes. I have faith that it will be just fine. I could have also just bagged this up into portions and put it back in the freezer, but I figure at this point I want to get as much as possible just stuck on the shelf and ready to go. If I was planning this, I probably would have made it a meal in a jar. But I do have chicken soup and things like that already canned over there. Somehow, this exactly filled 6 quarts and 1 pint, which is a canner load for my stovetop canner. I am thrilled with that. Alright, let's see what our chicken looks like. And I'm in the middle of making another video while I'm making all of these videos. I don't know why I'm doing that to myself, but whatevs. Ooh, that one's gonna siphon. I might let these sit in here a little bit more because I don't want siphoning. There's a little sneak peek. That one's not siphoning. But when you touch your jar and things start to come out, just leave them sitting in your pot for a little bit longer. They need to, although this has been sitting a very long time, they need a little bit more time, and that's okay. Alright, I'm sure you hear my digital canners going in the background. Let's see. I've just waited a few minutes and now it's no longer trying to siphon. And how about that? Lovely quarts of home canned chicken. And if you're new to canning in general and you have a pressure canner, I have found that meat, especially the raw pack method, is the easiest thing ever to do. At first I didn't understand why people would home can meats, but in this instance you see why people home can meats. And if you have an over an abundance, you don't want to block up your freezer, so it all makes sense now. Okay, so since the rush is over and I'm no longer stuck in this kitchen, I think I'll do stuff outside tomorrow. I'm gonna try to do a table view so you can see just how much food this really was, and I'll put that here. Alright, so that is 2.5, 3 days worth of work right there. I'll take you through and show you what all I did get with this unplanned canning preserving session. These are the 2 racks of ribs cut in half, stuck in the freezer. This is the red fish that I cooked up and then we didn't want. I was too tired to make sides, so they ordered pizza. And then I have 2, 4, 6 quarts and 1 pint of chicken. And that's legs and thighs. And then I have 4 mostly full quarts of beef stew. That was from 2 of the family size packages of stew meat. And I have 4 quarts of the pinto beans with the pork ham hock. And I ended up with 5 quarts of chicken bone broth from the chicken that I cooked and then canned, and 1 pint. And then my little experiment of liver and onions. They look decent. And also 10 quarts of the ground beef. And that is quite a lot since we already had ground beef. So now I just get to figure out where I'm going to put all of these. That's the fun part, right? You don't necessarily have your lovely racks yet, but you're trying to figure it out. Let me know down in the comments if you have great hidey places to put your food and how you remember what's there for when this problem happens. So the only thing that isn't laid out on the table that was part of this was my marinated chicken, or chicken a la Jamie, chicken a la Bob, whatever you want to call it, marinated chicken that was in the fridge or the freezer. And I defrosted that all the way and cooked it, I believe it was that first night. So we don't have that out here, of course, because we ate it. But all in all, I'm happy with saving what I could. And the problem has been remedied as far as we can think now. We have a child latch that goes on the front and the side, so you have to clip it and unclip it to get in. And then the hubby bought us an alarm, and he said it's Bluetooth as well, so you can check on it that way. But anyway, that's gonna be how we fix our problem. If you have other recommendations, let me know. So, random unplanned video. It's probably going to be pretty long. I'm sorry about that. This is 3 days. At least 2.5. At least 2.5 days worth of work. Long days. And it was interesting. But I can tell you that I am very proud of myself for having learned the skills to do this stuff, because I haven't always had these skills. I was not taught by family or friends or anybody. I was self-taught, and yeah, I do break some rules. Yeah, I did invent the liver and onions thing to preserve that food. Will it work? Will it taste good? I don't know. But if I don't try, that liver's going bad anyway, so I might as well try it. And we'll probably eat it within the next 6 months, just to make sure that nothing's a little wonky with it. But I think it'll be fine. Everything's sealed. Everything's sealed. Thank goodness. Because I already had a pork butt from the other night in the fridge. A massive pork butt that I needed to use my roaster to cook in the fridge, that I needed to go through and sort, remove the fat, and then put up the meat. I was going to put it in a freezer bag or something so we could use it later in different meals. I haven't even got to that yet. And I had also just bought a giant bone-in ham
because a lot of times we'll just cook a ham, eat on it multiple nights, and then I'll chop it up and put it up in the freezer as well. So I haven't even gotten to those things, but I am about done being in the kitchen, so I'm just going to do what I have to. I have no idea what's for dinner tonight, but there's plenty of things to eat around here now. I did find a spaghetti squash. Let me show you. It's starting to do all that. So I might do a little short so we can see what's inside, see if anything's savable. But aside from this and the taking care of that pork butt, maybe popping that ham in the oven tomorrow, I'm about done being in here. So thanks so much for watching, and I really appreciate you. If you got any education, any inspiration, if you had a laugh at my chaos, whatever it is, if you like this video in any way, please give it a like. Leave me a comment about anything or everything. I'm here. And if you aren't subscribed, please do so. Our channel seems to be growing pretty well, and I thank each and every one of you for that. And thank you so much for spending your time with me in all that you do. If you want to watch another video, YouTube will recommend you one right here. And that's it for today. That's it for 3 days. I'm going to do what I want to. Although this was very interesting and fun. But anyway, love y'all. Bye-bye.